ओम ओम गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुः गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुस्साक्षात् परं ब्रह्म तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। ओम ओम श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादशङ्करं लोकशङ्करं शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः। नमामि गौडपादं च शङ्करं श्रीसुरेश्वरं स्वामिनं सच्चिदानन्दमिन्द्रं तं ज्ञानरूपिणे। ओम Okay, today is Sugama. Today being Friday. Is it Friday? Oh yes. Ayyo. Okay. I think Friday 4th, yes. We were discussing Adhyasa. In that thing, Purvapakshi told Adhyasa being Sadi, beginningless, it can't be the cause of samsara, which itself is Anadi. Here, for this, Swamiji has already replied. First thing is thinking Adhyasa is Sadi is wrong, because Adhyasa is Anadi. The Purvapakshi thinks that this we have discussed elaborately in one day completely, one session. One hour. They take waking state is Adhyasa, and therefore as you wake up Adhyasa begins, and as you go to sleep Adhyasa. But thing is, you are waking up and going to sleep, this itself is Adhyasa. Not only the waking state, that you are coming out of deep sleep and going back, even coming and going also is Adhyasa. Okay, the waking state along with its coming and going, both are Adhyasa. The entire thing is Adhyasta. Adhyasa means it appears from this standpoint, doesn't exist from its own standpoint. That's what it means. So this point we have discussed. Now he says Bhagavata bhashyakarena tatra tatra tatha vyavaharat. Oh, Purvapakshi told Nacha jnana bhavo na ajnana shabdartha. Because he says jnana abhava, akshepa here. Jnana abhava cannot be ajnanam. See, they keep on adding their own things. Now he says, you have to accept Mula Vidya, because the not knowing, non-understanding jnana bhava cannot be ajnanam, cannot be the meaning of word ajnanam. The word ajnanam does not refer to jnana abhava. but refers to Moola Vidya only. This is where I touched it. I discussed that. Does anybody say in all the schools of philosophy existing in India as well as the outside India, do you ever see by Ajnanam, do they ever refer to something material as Ajnanam? By Ajnanam, what does even common man say? By Ajnanam, what does a common man even say? It is only just I don't know, or simply say I am not clear about it, or I have a different understanding, I think something different. See, simply not knowing, doubt, or misunderstanding. These are the only three forms Ajnana is seen in a common man's life, as well as the philosophers all over the world also accept Ajnanam only in these three forms. So nobody sees Ajnanam as something material. Okay. So this we have answered. Bhashyakara refers two places. One is in Gita Bhashya, 13th chapter. Again in Brihadaranyaka Bhashya. Two places he clearly says. Why two places? You can see all over the scattered. But in three places, two places is just quoting. If you go to Prasthanatrayi Bhashya, you got all over. He only talks of these two. He only these three only. Not knowing, misunderstanding, and knowing wrongly. Okay. These are the only three forms of adhyasa, ajnanam. And he says ajnanam is ajnanam, all this ajnanam, which is in either of the three forms, in one of these three or either of the three, goes away by jnanam alone. Now next he said, ajnanam has to be something material, something insentient, inert, and also known as Maya and Avidya. See, then again to this we have Swamiji replied. See, that Maya and Prakriti, Shakti, Maya, Shakti, Prakriti, you are interpreting wrongly. By borrowing Sankhya's Prakriya, you are calling Maya as Maya. First thing is the very understanding of Maya and Prakriti is partly wrong, because you are taking that Sankhya's Prakriti and then calling Maya as Avidya, it's too much. It is nowhere there. And Bhashyakara moreover talks of it totally differently. Maya is not Avidya, and he says Maya is Avidya Kalpitam. This also we discussed in the last class. Maya is the Avyakta Nama Rupa. The entire world is Nama Rupa, and Nama Rupa, when it is Avyakta, Avyakta means unmanifest, invisible, inexperienced, in deep sleep. In deep sleep, the entire Nama Rupa go unmanifest, unperceived. So that unperceived Nama Rupa is called Maya, because with reference to this perceived world, the world is manifest. With reference to this manifest, you called in Sushupti that this was not perceived, and again it appears now. So this also we discussed. Now we only touched it and left out, and this we are continuing now. Vartikakara. Swamiji is quoting Sureshwara's one shloka. Vartika is not a shloka, note it. Karika can mean shloka. Karika means a shloka, a poem, not a prose. But Vartika is a nature of commentary. Vartika is not shloka, note it. Vartika can be shloka, Vartika can be prose or poem or anything. Vartika can be prose or poem or anything. Vartika is the nature of commentary, the way it comments. And Karika means a shloka. Gaudapada Karika means Gaudapada shloka. That's all. Karika means simply shlokas. But Vartika means not shloka. Vartika can be prose or poem. It is a way of. What does it mean? It explains a commentary. It explains a commentary in a peculiar way. How? First it repeats what is stated, ukta, and also adds more information. It restates what is, for example, take Shankara Bhashya. On Shankara Bhashya, Sureshwara when he comments, he retains what Shankaracharya told, he repeats and also adds some more by way of elaborating and clarification. Not only clarification, not only he explains it, but also adds more information. Two things. One is it repeats what is stated by the main commentary, main book. It explains it, adds more information, and also differs where you feel like differing and giving. Differing means don't talk it negatively, in an alternative explanation. You may give an alternative explanation also. Okay, this is called Vartika. Vartika means repeating, explaining, elaborating, and also giving an alternative explanations. So this is called Vartika. Vartika has a freedom over a bhashya. Okay, so Vartika can be prose or poem, need not mean shloka. So here, but this happened to be shloka form. Sureshwaracharya's Vartika happens to be in shloka form. Vartika karena pyuktam. So Vartika Kara also says regarding what? In support of what Swamiji is quoting Vartika, in support of the idea that Ajnanam is only in three forms: not knowing, doubt, and also misunderstanding. Purvapakshi told, simply not knowing cannot be Ajnanam, he says. It has to be some material. Ajnanam means only something material. This is purely Sankhya's Prakriya, we have said before. This is purely Sankhya's Prakriya. Okay. Ajnanam means something material. Something material, inert material substance. Okay. This we have refuted with the help of Bhashyakara. Now we says with the help of Vartikakara also. Ajnana mithya samshayiti vyatirekena naparam pratyarthimeya vishaye manasyehasti kinchana. And also Purvapakshi told Maya is avidya, and Maya is something inert and other than these three. Other than not knowing, doubt, and misunderstanding. Other than these three, something substantial, and other than these three. Okay. Ajnana mithya samshayiti vyatirekena naparam pratyarthimeya vishaye manasyehasti kinchana. Sureshwaracharya says the Vedanta Pramana is going to, Vedanta Pramana dismisses, refutes avidya or negates avidya. So when it negates avidya, what kind of avidya it negates? Purvapakshi told that Jnanam by its nature, if Jnanam has to negate Ajnanam, I am quoting Purvapakshi, remember. Purvapakshi said that Jnanam can refute an Ajnanam only if it is a material. See? Jnanam can refute only if it is a material alone. Jnanam can refute it. Jnanam can negate it. That means they are making Jnanam negating Ajnanam as a something substantial, as a real destruction. They are imagining that Ajnanam is a substance and Ajnanam destroys it. So the destruction is a real event they are thinking. They are thinking destruction is a real event because Adhyasa is an event for them. Ajnanam is a material, Adhyasa is an event, is occurrence. Not only occurrence, it is a production. Adhyasa is a production, Ajnanam is a material, and Jnanam destroys it. Okay. Here he already told Maya is not something substantial. Maya is only an apparent form. A misunderstanding is avidya. The way it appears during misunderstanding, the way it appears is called Maya. Okay, this is technically what Shankaracharya told. Sureshwaracharya also says there is no avidya other than these three. See, Ajnana mithya samshayiti vyatirekena naparam pratyarthimeya vishaye manasyehasti kinchana. Other than this simple not knowing, doubt, and misunderstanding. Other than these three, there is no avidya that needs to be tackled by vidya. Vidya tackles only these three alone. Pratyarthimeya vishaye. Pratyarthi, the opposite. मेय विषये regarding the object, regarding the fact. मानस्येह अस्ति किंचन pramana, shruti pramana, vedanta vichara has nothing else to do to tackle, by way of tackling avidya, it has nothing else to do other than correcting these three misunderstandings. Okay, ajnanam, doubt and misunderstanding. Okay, now we proceed. Tadevam bhrantereva adhyasa rupayah vidya virodhitvena. Ultimately, bhranti alone is vidya virodhi. According to Sureshwara, according to Shankara, vidya virodhi, what is opposite to jnanam? Opposite means what, as the jnanam comes, ajnanam cannot exist. Opposite means as the jnanam arises, jnanam is ajnanam not there, that's all. Opposite means they take it two ways. Opposite means jnanam after arising, it goes on fighting with it and destroying it. They think like that. Jnanam after rising, it fights and destroys. It can be compared, I have given this example before, like a fog. In the winter fog, during winter you have a fog. You see them, that mist, something like a fog we call in Delhi particularly, you see them in North India. In winter you have a fog. As the sun rises, sun cannot melt away that winter fog, winter mist immediately. It takes some time, it keeps on fighting, after 1 hour or 2 hours it melts away. They think sun is after rising, cannot remove the avidya, he has to fight against it and then melt it away with the sunlight. But what Shankara and Sachidananda Swamiji and Sureshwara said is, as the sun rises, darkness is not there. That is the only fighting. Opposite means what? Darkness is opposite to light. What does it mean? What is that nature of opposition? Darkness is opposite to light, or light is opposite to darkness when we say. What is the nature of opposition? As the sun rises, there is no darkness, that's all. That's what it means. As the sun rises, darkness ceases to exist. Because darkness doesn't exist. Darkness means there is no light. As the light comes, there is no darkness. But they say light arriving alone is not enough. Arriving of the light is not enough. It has to fight against the darkness and then destroy it. This is what the Purvapakshi Mula Vidyavadis say. So, light, sun rising is not enough. He has to fight against darkness and then destroy it. So, this here, they are understanding darkness as a something mist, something like a mist, not simply the absence of light. According to Shankara, darkness is simply absence of light, or in other words, you can say it is a misunderstanding, is an imposition upon light. It is an imposition. So as the light comes, darkness is not there. That's all. Darkness gets corrected. You understand that it is a wrong. Similarly, therefore here, as the jnanam arises, jnanam can only tackle, jnanam can only negate false understanding, falsely imposed wrong understanding. So, tadevam bhrantereva adhyasa rupayah vidya virodhitvena. So, bhranti alone is vidya virodhi. Avidya shabdavachyatvopapattau siddhayam. Bhranti alone can be called as avidya. When this is clear, tasya evacha sarvajada pratyupasthapane samarthya sambhave. Then the entire insentient world appears to be there, which is not really there. That is adhyasa. So the entire anatma prapancha is due to adhyasa, is due to bhranti, is due to misunderstanding. Due to misunderstanding doesn't mean there is a, don't think like that. There is a misunderstanding which produces inert world. Okay, insentient world. There is no question of production. Bhranti means not production. Bhranti means that thinking, the very thinking that there is an insentient world in addition to Brahma. This very thinking is Bhranti. See, we have we live in terms of, we live in the level of cause and effect. That means a person who identifies with the body, mind and sense organs within the waking state, or within the state, waking or dream both are same. So within the state, he remains identified with the body, mind and sense organs, and such a person lives in time and space, and therefore he looks at the world as consisting of cause and effect relationship. So the worldly objects are related by cause and effect. Your human mind also thinks always in terms of cause and effect, cause and effect, cause and effect. Therefore, whenever you think of vidya, there also again you are imagining cause and effect. So the worldly thinking of cause and effect, you are extending into the entire universe. Here two things. One is two standpoints, two ways of looking. One is when you are a person within the waking state, you look at the worldly objects within time and place. You are not looking state as a whole. There are two standpoints. One is looking at the world as object. Another is looking at a state as a whole. When you look at all the three states, states have no relationship of cause and effect. Waking, dream and deep sleep, they have no cause and effect relationship, because cause and effect relationship exists only in time. Time is required for cause and effect relationship. So the time and place, time and space live within the waking state or within the dream state. Within the state there is time and space. So a person who is within the waking state, watching through his mind and sense organs, looks at the worldly objects, there alone he sees the cause and effect relationship. So one is taking the worldly objects through your sense organs and mind. See, one way of looking is looking at the worldly objects through time and space and through your mind and sense organs. Through your mind and sense organs, see the worldly objects existing in time and place. Three things: worldly objects existing in time and place. You are seeing through your mind and sense organs. Okay, note this thing. This is the experience of a person, of a jiva living within the waking state. A jnata, a subject within the waking state, looking at the worldly object. But Vedanta is not teaching at that level. This is a very common man's level. In fact, you have to give up this common man's standpoint and get Vedantic standpoint. Vedantic standpoint is different from common man's standpoint. You have to change your very way of looking at the world. Vedanta is changing your very way of looking at the world and way of looking at yourself. The way of looking at yourself as well as the world, the very standpoint of looking, Vedanta is correcting. So if you retain this common man's standpoint, you as an individual, as a part of a world, and world is around you and you are looking at the world within the time and place, this is a common man's standpoint. So from this level, you think that everything is cause and effect, cause and effect, cause and effect. Then you think world is a substantial production, and the production requires a material, and material transforms into world. This is a standpoint of a person who is already an individual who living within the world, within the state. But Vedanta says there is another standpoint, that is looking at the world as a state, as a waking state, dream state and deep sleep. So to look at the states, you can't be part of the waking world. You are looking at all the three states from your Anubhava standpoint. The standpoint is Anubhava, not the standpoint is of an individual. Okay, you are looking at all the entire world into three states. You are reducing them into three states, and the states include time and place. States include your individual body, mind and sense organs. See, 2 points. How to look at the entire state. State is your Anubhava. In that Anubhava, you are including your body, you are including your sense organs, you are including mind, you are including your sense of individuality, and that Anubhava, that experience, intuitive experience, that level of intuitive experience from which you can see the waking, dream and deep sleep. Okay, so that is an avasthanubhava drishti, not drishti of an individual living within the world as a part of a state. You are looking at all the three states: waking, dream and deep sleep. So this anubhava drishti, intuitive anubhava, we have a sense anubhava, we have a sensory experience, we have a emotional experience, that is a mental level. Third is a divine experience, that is a yogic experience. So we have a three lower experience other than universal intuitive experience. This we have discussed. I am just touching once again. One is the sensory experience. Second is emotional experience, that is a mind experience at the level of the mind from which you see the various emotions. Third is the yogic or divine, yogic or supernormal experiences of yogics and divine anubhavas. Okay, all your revelations and all that, the so-called revelations, religious experiences, yogic experiences, they are all individual experiences. Okay, so other than these three experiences, an intuitive experience and a universal intuitive. Note it, it is a universal. Yogic and religious experiences are personal. They are deeper than sensory experience and mental experiences. They are deeper than sensory experiences, mental experiences, yet they are personal. They are not universal. Whereas avastha experiences like waking, dream and deep sleep, these three are universal. Universal means it is an intuitive universal experience. It includes time and place within the state. When the time and space is included within the state, because when you are in waking, when you are experiencing waking, the waking time and space is included in the waking state alone, and the dream time and space is included in the dream state alone. Waking world, waking time space doesn't extend it to dream, and the dream time and place doesn't extend into waking. Okay, that means Jagrat Desha Kala remains confined to Jagrat Desha, Jagrat Avastha. Similarly, Swapna Desha Kala remains confined to Swapna Avastha. It doesn't move on into waking, because from the standpoint of dream, the waking doesn't exist. From the standpoint of waking, dream doesn't exist. From the standpoint of dream, waking doesn't exist, because these two states are mutually exclusive. Therefore, the two states cannot be seen in terms of cause and effect relation, cause and effect. Okay, waking and dream are not mutually related as cause and effect, because cause and effect requires a time. Time pertains to one of the state, time pertains to state alone, and in between state there is no time. Note, from that state to state there is no in between connection. What is connection between one state and another state? There is a total absence of state. Absence of state is only consciousness. Sakshi alone exists in between state. One state ends, another state not yet begun. You are Sakshi. There is no connection. There is no time and place. There is no time and space between one state and another state. One state ends means, ending means what? There is only Sakshi. Ending of a state means Sakshi. Beginning of a state means Sakshi. From the Sakshi, state begins and ends in the Sakshi. Any state, whether waking state or dream state, begin from the Sakshi, exist in the Sakshi, end in the Sakshi. Therefore, state to state, from the waking to dream, dream to deep sleep, there is no time relationship. Therefore, no cause and effect relationship. Okay. Therefore, and Purvapakshi says that tasyacha sarvajada pratyupasthapane samarthya sambhave, and misunderstanding alone is adhyasa. Misunderstanding means what? All the three states are directly experienced by the intuitive experience. Intuitive anubhava, intuitive experience, which is a universal intuitive experience. So from that level, you are looking at all the three states, and just if you go little deeply watch into them, and one state is not connected to other, and when you see that the states are not connected, See, this very understanding shows that you stand as a Sakshi. That means states are not connected. That means states are directly related to Sakshi. So the Sakshi to which the states are directly related, you come to that Sakshi. The states don't exist other than the Sakshi. States do not exist other than the consciousness. Therefore, time, place are within the states, and the states don't exist other than the Sakshi. Sakshi alone is the reality, the truth of all the states. Okay, this understanding alone corrects that there are states. The thinking that there is a waking, dream and deep sleep, these three states, thinking that I am undergoing three states itself is an adhyasa. Okay, I am undergoing three states, I am subject to three states. This thought, this thinking is adhyasa. Correcting adhyasa means coming to the Sakshi standpoint where neither of the state exists apart from consciousness. This is called correcting adhyasa. A misunderstanding is taking the pure consciousness as subject to three states, as undergoing three states, as experiencing three states. A consciousness, a non-dual consciousness taken as experiencing three states is adhyasa. Correcting adhyasa means the so-called states are nothing. If you watch them, observe them, the state doesn't exist apart from the consciousness. The same consciousness is wrongly thought of as a state. In reality, it is consciousness. It is just the consciousness free from time, space. It is a non-dual consciousness. This understanding is correction. Okay, correcting adhyasa. Therefore, tadevam bhrantereva. Now it is a final conclusion. Swamiji says, bhrantereva adhyasa rupayah virodhitvena. Bhranti alone is a virodhi for jnanam. Virodhitvena avidya shabdavachatvopapattau siddhayam. It is a misunderstanding alone that can be, that is referred by the word avidya. That means the word avidya refers to misunderstanding alone, which includes non-knowing and doubt also. Non-knowing and doubt, not knowing and doubt also is a misunderstanding alone. Therefore, siddhayam tasya eva cha sarva jada pratyupasthapane samarthya sambhave. Samarthya, the entire jada world, the entire insentient world, that means the entire state. Entire state is a misunderstanding, is not a product. You think of a product because you are still looking at the world as a person within the state. You are looking at the world as inert objects within the state. If you look at a state as a whole state, you see them, it is only an appearance, not the objects. It looks as an appearance. Therefore, the entire insentient avastha is only due to misunderstanding. That there is a state, that there is a waking and dream and deep sleeps itself is a misunderstanding. Okay? Due to misunderstanding, there are three states. The very thought that I am subject to three states, I am undergoing three states itself is adhyasa, itself is a misunderstanding. Okay? The real understanding is I am not subject to states, I am free from states, I am the pure non-dual consciousness. Understanding oneself as non-dual consciousness, free from states, states never existed because the states are inseparable from me, is jnanam. Avidya is taking that I am subject to three states, I am undergoing three states. So pratyupasthapane samarthya. Therefore, adhyasa alone explains the perception of the world. Adhyasa alone explains the experience of three states. You don't have to talk in terms of a material which produces the world. World is an appearance. Why do we need a material for the appearance? Appearance is only a thought. Thought doesn't need a material because thought is not a production. Thought is only a wrong thinking. Okay, thought is not a production. And he says, world is a substance, substance is a production Production requires a material. See, these three thoughts: world is a substance, it is a production, it needs a material. These three thoughts arise because of your wrong standpoint. You are wrongly looking at the world. You are taking yourself as a body, sense organs and mind, and living as an individual within the state. As an individual within the state, you look at it, you look at the world as a substantial something, as an objective world. Object means as a real substantial world, concrete world. But if you look at the whole world as a state, so therefore look at the world as a state, that is the drishti. Avastha drishti is Vedanta is tackling. Avastha drishti. Come to the avastha drishti. Without getting avastha drishti, Vedanta should not be listened and you cannot understand. People without adopting avastha drishti listen to Vedanta as an individual within the world and keep on asking the questions again and again and again and again, because first you got a wrong standpoint of looking at the world. Therefore Vedanta says you are anubhava drishti, because adhyasa or avidya, when Shankara Bhashya says adhyasa is sarvaloka pratyakshaha. See what adhyasa Bhashya told? Sarvaloka pratyakshaha naisargikaha. Naisargika is natural experience, swabhavika experience. That means he is talking a universal intuition. A universal intuition is swabhavika. He is not talking a sensory experience or a mental experience, nor even yogic experience. Mental experience or sensory experience, if you look at through your sensory experience and mental experience, you see the avastha as a world. Okay? You don't see the world as an avastha. You see the world as within the avastha, and you also exist within the avastha. And from that standpoint, you think in terms of cause and effect, material, produce. Therefore, science also does the same thing. There is a material from which the world is born. It always thinks that there is a concrete substantial material, and that material transforms into science also is thinking like that. And recently they have understood time and space itself is a thought, and world exists within the time and space. See, this is one very great important discovery of science with the help of Vedanta. Of course, they took help of Vedanta. Some of the recent quantum theory, and those scientists who started quantum theory, they have taken help of Vedanta. They got a suggestion from Vedanta. With the help of that suggestion, they try to understand it. So substantial world is a substantial, world is a concrete only within time and space, and also time and space and the object, all the three are known to the subject. Only when there is a subject object relationship, world can be seen. Therefore world has to be seen as a relationship of subject object within time and place. But time and place and this relation of subject object is nothing but a thought. World as an object exists within time and place. Okay, time and space. World, concrete world exists within time and space. Now seeing the object, concrete object, time and space, all these three put together can be seen by a subject. Subject object divisive mind, divisive thought. This itself is a thought, we told. So only it is a thought. Outside the thought, there is no subject object duality. There is no subject object duality. There is no time and place. Therefore the object, time and space, all these three come under one thought alone. Therefore the thought is adhyasa. Thought is misunderstanding. Okay. Thought is misunderstanding. Therefore here one mistake, in spite of understanding this much, that the world is a thought, still they make a biggest mistake. Therefore they are unable to come to Brahman. Scientists come, they took help of Vedanta. Shall I tell you? I am using a very harsh word. They have not come to the Vedantic Guru as a disciple. They came as robbers. I am sorry, Madhule, I apologize to you. They wanted to rob Vedantic idea and then discover on their own, experiment that idea. They have robbed this idea. World is only a thought. They thought that, oh yes, we got this one clue from Vedanta and we'll discover on our own. They tried to do that. Again they did a mistake. Again they made a grossest blunder. Talking a thought is not enough. They took it as an individual thought. That is a mistake. See, they understood world is a thought. Understood means they got a clue and they worked in that line. And they told that the world appearance is due to thought. But again it is an individual. The thought is of an individual, they thought. The mistake they made is, it is a thought, the thought which arises in an individual mind. To the individual, thought arises and the thought sees the world. World means they thought world as a huge world consisting of many objects. They thought object by object as a thought. See, they thought world is a thought. But here they made a mistake. World consists of many objects. Each object is one thought. In short, they say world is only a series of thoughts. Once you say series, again you come back to an individual thought. Again you come back to the time and place and subject-object duality. Therefore they missed it. They missed it again. Because, shall I tell you, my way of blunt talking. If they had come as a disciple, they have understood the Jagat is Adhyasa and Brahman is Sakshi is Atma. Instead of coming as a disciple, they read the books and they got that, they robbed the idea and claim that we have discovered. They robbed the idea. Those who want to read Upanishads on their own, want to rob the ideas from Upanishads, they will not understand, I tell you. You approach as a disciple to the Upanishads, then let the Upanishad reveal to you. Let the Upanishad give you a right standpoint, and then you get in your Anubhava. There you need Guru's help. You think that Upanishad is a book and you can read it on your own. Upanishad is a concept. You can pick up the concept and claim that I have discovered. This is what scientists have been doing it. They robbed it and they tried to experiment it. They just got, the science has moved a little bit with the help of the Vedantic idea that world is only a thought. They came up to particles. That what is that? Electrons, neutrons, protons. What are they? They are only particles. Particles are only thought up to that. So Vedantic suggestion, they used it. First they robbed it and used it to their own Jiva Buddhi. First thing is, they have not approached as a disciple with an intention to discover the Atma, and Guru should have helped them. But they took the idea, they used it, and again remained with the thought alone. They don't know how to transcend the thought and come to consciousness. Again they got stuck. So this is because you can't rob. Those who want to read books on their own, Upanishads or Vedanta, they are only robbers. I'm talking our Vedantic way. Vedantic tradition, if a disciple tries to read a book on his own, he is a robber. If he learns from Guru, that is a teaching. That is a teaching. But Guru is not an individual, I tell you. Guru is also an instrument. It is the same absolute consciousness manifesting through an individual. Individual is a manifesting instrument. It is your own Atma coming in the form of this person. Therefore, Guru is not an individual. Therefore, the credit doesn't go to the person. It is his vision, it is understanding. He also cannot take credit for that understanding because he has been blessed by his Guru. So, the Guru who has been blessed by Upanishads or the Rishis, he understands it. In his understanding, he ceases to be an individual. He ceases to be an individual. Therefore, the understanding that dawns upon him, as the understanding dawns upon him, he ceases to be an individual. Then when he is a non-individual, he becomes one with the truth. From such Guru you learn. You learn from such Guru who ceases to be individual. So you don't have to give credit to him as a person, to him as the Swarupam of Brahma. So you give credit to that. You listen to that one who is teaching. You listen to that Swarupam which is teaching, and that helps you to understand. You also transcend your individuality and you discover the truth. Okay. But you thought that you can read the book and pick up idea and claim that you discovered, like most of the Indologists are doing. Most of the Indologists are reading Hindu books. Hindu means all Eastern books. Books they read and pick up few idea and then rob them, and they say that first they do all these things. It is well known now. After Rajiv Malhotra told, it is well known now. But some of the people have discovered these things beforehand. Rajiv Malhotra put it in a systematic books, and then therefore it has become popular. But some of the intelligent people have seen this before only. Before Rajiv Malhotra wrote the book, many people have seen. But anyway, it's good thing he has done it. He made it popular, and particularly he brought this to the attention of the Indologists. Okay, we leave them. Our purpose is not Indology and all that thing. Our purpose is Vedanta and understanding the Atma. Okay, so here how you approach. If you approach as an individual, you can't transcend an individual, because robbing is an individual mind. Shishya means you are surrendering your very individuality. Shishya means what? You are willing to drop away your individuality. Look upon Guru as a non-individual. He is a direct Swarupam, not an individual. See, you look upon Upanishad and Guru as a non-individual. You also are ready to drop away, surrender your individuality and discover yourself as the truth of the universe. So if you come as a disciple, come as a Shishya, you are ready to melt away your individuality and discover your absolute truth. As the truth, your nature is the truth. Your nature is the truth of the universe, entire universe. So if you come as a robber, you are coming as an individual. And you take another Guru as an individual. Why should I surrender to Guru? Because he is another individual. I can discover my own. This itself shows you remain an individual. Treat Guru as another individual. Then you bring ego, and then you think, once you bring the ego and he is Guru, why should I surrender and I am an ego? Then it is an ego robs. Disciple surrenders, ego robs. Okay, see the difference. If you come as an ego, you won't understand the truth. You rob the concept and you remain the concept. You won't transcend your ego and understand the truth. You come as a disciple and see Guru as a non-person, non-individual, because he is the very truth. And then once you see him as a truth, you also surrender your jivahood, your individual jivahood, and you become a disciple. In that you discover that, okay, then the entire universe is yourself, you as not an individual, the Swarupam, the truth, which is the truth of the whole universe. Then that is the right understanding. So if you come as an individual ego, you will only rob. You are consciously, unconsciously you rob. Without your knowledge, you will only robbing, because it is an individual that robs. It is a disciple that transcends individual, because there is no need to rob, because he transcends the very individuality, because he is ready to surrender his individuality, ready to surrender his individual standpoint, come to the universal truth. That itself is readiness. That readiness in learning is the Shishya. Shishya is readiness to learn. Okay, then you are no more a robber, because you don't need to rob. When you are the truth, why do you need to rob others' ideas? Your Swarupa is the Atma Swarup, Brahma Swarupam. Why do you need to rob? When Guru is blessing you with the very Brahma Swarupam, why do you want to be Jiva and want to rob? Guru is blessing you and helping you to drop away your Jivahood and become Brahman. Discover yourself as a Brahman. Your Guru is helping you to drop away the robbing nature of Jiva, because Jiva robs. So the robbing nature of Jiva he dismisses, he disproves it, and helps you to discover you are Brahman. When Guru is helping you to discover Brahman, why do you want to remain Jiva and rob idea? Because there is an ego. You want to discover and claim that you are discoverer. I tell you, you remain a Jiva, you can only be a robber, not the truth, not an understander of truth, not a wise man who understands the truth. So if you come as an individual, you can only be a robber. If you come as a disciple surrendering, you will drop away your individuality. You will come to discover that Brahman who is the truth of the whole universe, which is the truth of the whole universe. Now, do you want to discover the truth, or you want to remain an individual and rob? You choose. It is between you. It is for you. Okay. My harsh way of telling. Okay, forgive me, but I have to tell certain things. I call it rob because I am discouraging, just discouraging that picking up the ideas. It should be a search for truth. It is an investigation. It is a disciple is a one who is ready to discover, who is ready to investigate into anubhava. Come as an investigator, come as a jignasu, come as a seeker of the truth. You search. You as a disciple, you can search. Disciple means searching. Guru helps you if you are searching, because the searching is properly guided. Your discovery, your investigation is proper. Guru means who guides your proper investigation. Okay, the proper angle of looking and proper guidance, proper way of investigation, the right way of investigation, the right angle of looking, he guides you, because he himself is not an individual. If he is an individual, I tell you, he can't guide you because he himself is stuck with the time and space and subject-object relationship. Is stuck. He can't help you. Therefore, you see him as that, you will also be seeing as that way. Then no individualities. There are neither Guru nor Shishya. They are both are not individuals. Okay? Guru is a light. Shishya is a receptacle of light. No individuals. Okay? And that jivahood, that wrong standpoint gets negated. You discover that you are the truth of the whole universe. You are the Brahman, which is the truth. You are free from adhyasa. Okay? That should be the right way. Therefore, तदेवं भ्रांतेरेव अध्यास रूपायाः विद्या विरोधित्वेन उपपत्तौ सिद्धायां तस्याच सर्वजड़ प्रत्युपस्थाने सामर्थ्य संभवे. When misunderstanding, when adhyasa itself can explain, because whole the insentient world, the entire world is adhyasa. That means without being there, it appears to be there. The very pure consciousness appears as an insentient world. This is adhyasa. This adhyasa can explain, this adhyasa is explaining, accounting for a world. Why do you have to imagine that there is a material which is transforming? Why are you trying to imagine that there is a material which is trying to transform into the world? Why do you do that? Why do you imagine that the world is transformation of this thing? Okay. Therefore, na anadi bhavatmakam ajnanam nama kinchit. Therefore, the beginningless ajnanam means only adhyasa. Adhyasa is beginningless. Na anadi bhavatmakam ajnanam nama kinchit. Therefore, ajnanam doesn't mean, as what you told, something material transforming. Your standpoint is wrong. You stand as an individual within the waking state, who looks at only time and place, who looks at cause and effect relationship. From that standpoint, you are imagining. The prakriya, wrong prakriya was written from the wrong standpoint. The reason for wrong prakriya is the wrong standpoint taken by them. Okay, you take the right standpoint which Shankaracharya, Shankara Bhashyam points out, you come to the right prakriya. Okay, right prakriya you come only by taking a right standpoint. Right standpoint you get it, you take help of right bhashya and not the other people who have deviated from bhashya. Okay. So, ato na kevalam ashankaramidam kintu sarvata yuktyupetam. Therefore, not only it is outside Shankara Bhashyam, it is also illogical. It is against logic. It is unreasonable. That's what it means. Okay. Tasmat nasti prativadya bhimata. Therefore, there is no mula vidya, as Purvapakshi told, adhyasa atirikta vidya ata abhyupagamya brumaha. Now, the next point it touches. Assuming that there is mula vidya, what is the problem? See how Swamiji argues from different angles. Assuming that there is mula vidya, let us see. If you accept mula vidya, what will be the problem? Even if you assume, still the problem won't be solved. Okay, we'll discuss in the next class. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om Tat.